Okay, well, it's quite a story. Last year, Skylar was in my class as a sophomore, and I was incorporating scenarios into my Facing History curriculum. In Facing History, we talk about identity in ourselves and being able to be yourself. We talked about lots of emotional issues. Skylar was paying attention to how the kids were reacting to those stories. And then one day, Skylar went to the guidance counselor and said, I think I want to come out to my classmates.
I was very, very scared because I knew that I would be coming out to all my classmates. My friends already knew I needed to come out to my parents, and I was kind of scared of how everyone would react.
Listen, you don't have to do this. This is okay. This is really brave. Because, usually 10th graders aren't very nice to each other. So Skylar made this whole presentation about being transgender. What is transgender? Explaining it to all of us, and myself included, because I had no experience with it. And then said, I am transgender. And the best thing about that day was that one by one, my students stood up and said, we already liked you as Ariana, so we're going to support you as Skylar. That was like the first step. And then scenarios came along with the writing contest. That was Skylar's outlet to write the story about House Not Home.
Our film, House Not Home, is about a teenager named Taryn Spring who discovers that they identify as being trans or transgender.
They go through a process of transitioning into their identity.
They decide that they're going to show the world who they really are. Reaching out to youth is something that I've always enjoyed doing in my life and my directorial work. So this is just an extension of that, and I feel very proud to be working on this film because it is a subject matter that is not often discussed in cinema.
Most people don't really know how to react whenever they find out that someone's, a different gender. They don't teach that stuff in school, so I kind of tried to give them a chance to figure that out.
My hope is that this film pushes that conversation about gender that much further.
I like to use the term transgender as an umbrella term. There are a lot of different communities that fall underneath that umbrella, if you will.
That could be along a continuum. We all should allow individuals to say what that is, respect that individual, and see that individual and experience that individual as that identity that they have set for themselves.
House Not Home is a mix of my own experiences and what I thought would happen in the future and what I knew happened to people in the past.
The character Taryn, when we see him walking by, when we see him at school dressing a different way, he's like a criminal in our minds. He's like somebody that is just straying away from the norm and breaking the rules. And as a bully, trying to fix them, either abusive words, in this case, abusive words and physical abuse. It's a pretty actually brutal fight scene. It's definitely socially provoking, him being transgender and us kind of representing a typical American view of transgender today.
I hope that everyone could realize what this bullying can do to people, because kids could go home and kill themselves over stuff like this. I've had a friend that's done it before, and to this day I still miss her, but then the kids that were bullying her were shocked because they didn't realize what they were doing could actually cause someone to be able to do that.
We're talking about people here just because they're different, and it could be race, it could be sexuality, economic status, but it's just people. It's just people, and why do you have to be so violent, at least in this film, toward them, verbally, physically? Why are you so violent to these people just because they're different, just because you don't understand? That's a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn, but it's really, it hits home in this film.
This is something that happens actually a lot nowadays in our society, unfortunately.
It's something most teenagers, I think, can relate to.
They're bullied, they're misunderstood, but they work through those issues and they find peace in who they are. And I think that message will not only speak to the transgender teens across America, but also to anyone who's ever felt left out, anyone who's ever felt isolated, anyone who's ever felt cut off from their high school peers and who really felt different.
House Not Home is a really phenomenal story about a young individual finding their way.
They're questioning their gender, and they're trying to find answers to questions that they've had for a long time. And they're trying to take these answers that they've gathered and adapt it to their life and make it appropriate to their life and live their truth and, you know, to just be who they are.
I thought it was very raw emotionally, and I think it's a very good message and a really good story.
This story can not only relate to LGBT, I think it can go further than that. People who just don't want to express themselves because they feel that they're not accepted.
We're moving into a world that's much more accepting of all different types of identities.
We have to work hard with all of our students to increase their understanding of one another and not just promote their tolerance, but their compassion for each other.
Scenarios USA takes issues head on and makes really wonderful short films that I think speak to audiences all across America, and especially to high school students who really resonate with these themes.
One thing that I admire that Scenarios USA does, after the story is identified as the winning story, the young person works with the director and the young person works with professional writers to really help their voice, just take their voice to a different level. Also, we pulled together a Cleveland coalition, professionals, supporters, young people who really understand the population that this story is relating to.
We're trying to make sure that the authenticity that Skylar brought to this material is retained.
I've known Scenarios work for quite a long time. They have a knack at really doing it well, allowing the voice of young people to stay authentic.
It's exciting.
We don't get to have this conversation about gender that often in a school setting, and I think it's really great that Skylar has put together a script that shows the emotional experience a person goes through in coming to terms with who they really are.
I think it's a genuine representation of what my generation wants to say.
I will say Skylar's very aware of how he feels about himself, how he feels about identifying as a transgender teen, and how he wants to be respected.
The work is work, you know, the work is work, but when the work pays off, that's where the energy comes in. And putting in the work and knowing that this work is going to pay off because you're doing the right thing and you're assisting in the empowerment of a community.
Because if you're not in it, people are not going to take this as this serious.
My hopes are that this conversation continues. LGBT individuals are like everyone else.
Many of the movements in history around equality, around acceptance, around being better human beings to one another, those movements were led by youth.
The ability to see someone like you is immeasurably important for many minority groups, whoever we may be.
People need to be aware that, you know, hey, we're not all the same, but it's okay.
Being able to see the actors actually live out what I wrote was, I guess, surreal. I never really expected to get this far. Knowing that everything that I went through wasn't for nothing, being able to make a difference, I've just been thinking more and more about what kind of change I could make if this goes right, and it's been an amazing experience.
Don't go nowhere yet, y'all, I ain't done. Oh! Now I'ma say stand, will you raise hands? I know you feel it cause I just witnessed your breakdance. Don't have to tell it, go get it, go grab it. You watching what happens, that's why you so stagnant. And I ain't got nothing to prove to them. Look smooth when I move cause I move in him. That's a truth, don't lose the gym. Look at you, where you going, I'ma make you think. So if you ain't ready to go, then take a seat.